I I hope you'll agree with me that one of the great pleasures of these evaluations is the sheer entertainment value. And that was such an entertaining entry. It's so much fun. It just, yeah. Great work, Simon. Um, I have actually already written the comment for this that I'm going to leave on the post about your cinematic sorcery here, and it's it's just nicely done. Two piccolos and one flute is beautifully audacious, and I, of course, the topper is the triple xylophones. So the only critique that I'm going to make overall about that and about the whole approach that you use on this page is I'm just wondering how long you could keep that up, right? This is one of those rare moments when my sense of suspended disbelief sort of engages itself to just sort of challenge myself to imagine if this same level of intrigue and kind of sleight of hand could be accomplished for a full 3.5 minutes. Like how effective would that be? It's great how you take the xylophone all the way up to the top C here. That's just amazing. And the chords that you've got, the chordal passages, the little xylophone chorales. Once again, one of the great things about being surprised is that it's something that you didn't think about, right? You weren't expecting. That is the whole point of it. And if you didn't expect it, you probably wouldn't have thought it up yourself. So that is just really a delight to be wonderfully surprised by that. Okay. Having said that, this is, I think, the other semi-brev entry that only went as far as the first section. So look, folks, please don't add more rehearsal marks. Okay, that maybe this happened because of importing into Dorico or Sibelius or whatever of what was originally a DAW track, but look, don't add any more rehearsal marks than the ones that are in the template, right? Because it helps me to keep track of it. Now, in this work, obviously, I can just take one quick glance at it and I can see that it is nothing more than section A, right? But it's a little confusing to some people who are watching this who might not have or might have come in a little bit late. Maybe this is the first one that they're seeing and they're saying, wow, maybe that wasn't a whole lot to orchestrate right in there, and they did two and so on. So just don't mess with the rehearsal marks, please, everybody. Okay, yeah, so I love these little written D major triplets. Really, really fun. Yeah. And all of these other triplets happening in here, and then of course you got the xylophones chattering away. Like, how much xylophone is too much xylophone? Well, I would say that this isn't too much xylophone, except past here, right? Like this, I think this is as much xylophone as you can get away with, without it being basically a percussion score. Within the context of orchestral music, and then you'd have to do something else, right? I like the way that you take this all the way up here to this high D. That is kind of answering the question of like how far up are you going to allow the melodic development to go, and that's perfectly fine with me. Of course, like everything else has been kind of sunk by a pitch, right? Like instead of these being E major chords, they're D major chords, and it's being written in B flat. Okay, so I think you could have just left out the B flat key signature, just left out the key signature entirely. Just it looks like it was dropped a whole step, and then after that added the key signature, you didn't delete the key signature. You don't really need it. If this is in like a sort of a D Phrygian, like a kind of a very that kind of Spanish, like the original is in E Phrygian, which is a very typical kind of Spanish scale. So yeah, so you just dropped everything down a step, and then that way you don't go above that high C. And the same thing for the piccolo. Nice teaming up here of the piccolo and the first xylophone, and then you've got the flute doubling the other xylophone, and so on. So yeah, it's just such a cool idea. I just really like it. And then harp is just all glissandos, and notice how like that works perfectly fine. And you can hear it whenever it's playing, and also you can hear this tuba glissando, which is just really fun. And that underlining the middle strings right in here, that's also just so much fun. Now, I do have one or two little critiques, okay? And one of them is this. That is that I seriously doubt that this solo violin is going to have any impact whatsoever on the music. If you have trumpet down an octave, and its overtones are just going to basically bury what's going on in your solo violin. If it weren't, if it weren't enough for the fact that it was also being doubled by our oboes and English horn, right? So that there isn't enough power up here. You're better off having your flute player play up there or something like that. All right. Yeah, and then here you have col legno at fortissimo, and I mean, you're going to hear a little bit of rattle and rustle, but you already have so much of that sort of thunky wood hits wood kind of sound coming from the xylophone that will just basically absorb the sound of the col legno happening in the violins. I mean, you can leave it in, it's not going to really make that much of a difference. The fact that you're hitting open strings a lot of the time, I would say like the more open strings you can introduce into this, the better. Like, so for instance, here you've got this open D, so that is going to be a much better note to hit on col legno to try to get some kind of sound out of it. But I mean, look, you've got tuba playing the same exact pitch, right? And so that basically obviates whatever effect you might have from the col legno. If this were an octave lower right in here, then you would get that open G. And then here you got that open A, right? So, I mean, those pitches do make a difference. But yeah, but the tuba, tuba trading off with the horn, first horn. Yeah, and these rips right in here. Yeah, it's just so much fun. And it's, there's nothing I can say against it too much, because this being a cinematic style score, you can get away with your col legno strings right in there because you can just boost them in the mix, right? So I can't judge it too much, because on the even here, this solo violin in here and these solo cellos, which are going to get possibly swallowed up by the just by the sound of the xylophones over the top of them. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's necessary to have, like, you have this solo violas and then glee altri, and I mean, there's just so much going on here. I just don't think they need to be solo, right? I think you could just score this, just score it unison divisi for all of this is what I would recommend. And here you do not have to go to ottava until like the last, I would say, start right here with your ottava, and then score everything else the pitch that it should be. It's just easier on the conductor, on the players. I mean, the players should not even get this at all. They can read all the way up to a written D on that very, very high ledger line. Okay. So those are kind of, you know, okay, and just like the kind of dangling tie, the uncompleted tie. That's a very movie score kind of thing. I think you should just write out the exact duration in concert music that you intend, right? It's sort of like niente that shows up in film scores all the time. Like for instance, in the James Horner analysis, they had was it the brass or the double reeds? I think it was the double reeds going down to niente, which is just not possible, right, for that particular instrument in that context in that amount of time. So yeah, and then I'm seeing that being used, people being very used to throwing that into their film scores, whether it works or not, and then submitting an entry, and there's like more of a film approach to it. So I would just say like watch out, because this kind of thing, the player will just ignore it, and they'll just make it into a quarter note, or or they'll finger it with their left hand fingering. They'll do some vibrato on it, right, just to try to make it last a little bit longer. But I think if you want a half note here, then just write a half note at pizzicato. If the speed we're going, that's fine. It'll last as long as it lasts, right? Or a dotted quarter note, excuse me. So a half note or a dotted quarter note, or even just like a tenuto mark, right? You get the full sound from it. But otherwise, I don't really see a whole lot of problems. Some people will probably pick up a few things here and there. One last little bit of perspective that I'm going to leave with you here, and that is the sound of very high piccolo going up to its very, very highest notes. In some sound sets, that sound is kind of tamed. It's moderated in a way. It is sort of beautified a little bit, a little unrealistically, because the real sound of piccolo in its altissimo register is like similar to a Lego block being jammed into your ear. You know what I mean? It's a square peg trying to go into a round hole. Okay, it is. There's something about it. There's something geometrical and mathematical about its overtones that you can immediately hear, right? Like it's like a square, and when you get up to that high C and B and so on, G, it can just really be tiring to the listener. Now, you have got some xylophone to sort of mellow it out, and I would never even imagine that somebody would say, hey, the xylophone mellows something out, right? But it does, in this case, mellow out the blockiness of the xylophone the piccolo way up there at the top of its range. So I just would say use caution. Just really be careful when you go up to there, because that's a place where music starts to lose its sense of musicality, right? It's kind of like the way that I define the way that I define extreme dynamics. So triple forte is as loud as you can play your instrument and still be musical. Quadruple forte is as loud as you can play your instrument, musical or not, right? So there's something similar about going up into those very, very high ranges. And of course, like, you're scoring at fortissimo, so there's no problem with pulling your punches in a place where you really can't. So anyways, that's my word of caution to you, all right? And then everything else, seems fine and fun. Okay, so great job, Simon. Just you really made my day, and kind of coming at the end of a long day of evaluations, it was just a wonderful way to end this particular day. But just because I'm ending it here in real time doesn't mean that you have to end it there in the future when you're watching this video a few days or a week or two after I have recorded this evaluation. So I would say, why don't you just come with me and let's go look at the next of these semi-brev evaluations together. Thank you, Simon, so much for your support on Patreon, and for all of the Patreon supporters who made this entire thing possible, and for our website subscribers who have given us these wonderful small chunks of evaluations that are just so vital to the process, I feel. And for everybody out there watching this, making comments, thank you all.